How are you? Good? Okay, Kahal Kadosh. Good morning, everybody. Shavua Tov u'mevorach. Beruchim habayim to everyone. Today, the 29th day of Tevet, corresponding to the 22nd day of January 2023. Tonight, Be'ezat Hashem, will be... I have it. Thank you so much. Tonight, Be'ezat Hashem, will be Rosh Chodesh Shevat Haba Aleinu Letova, one day of Rosh Chodesh. Today's class, graciously sponsored by Itzik Ginsburg and family from Toronto, Canada. Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved grandfather, that regretfully, I believe, he perished during the time of the Holocaust. El Hanan Avigdor Ben Naftali Hertz Hashem Inkom Damo. That's usually the words that you say when, God forbid, somebody perishes in a tragic way through the Holocaust or terrorist attack, etc. Literally means, may Hashem avenge his blood. That's the meaning of that. So we say Tiskela Mizvot to the sponsorship of today. So, Hamavdil, today I'm heading to a wedding immediately after the class. And what topic the Gemara of today discusses? The topic of marriages. But not so much of a person getting married and how to handle life as a married couple, but actually discusses how should be the behavior of the guest when they come to a wedding. Okay, obviously a person goes to a wedding, nicely dressed, whatever you do in a beautiful way, hopefully in a timely fashion. So maybe I should give also a hearty mazel tov to the Hatan and Kala getting married soon. We say a hearty mazel tov to the Levi and to the Friedman family for the upcoming wedding by Be'ezat Hashem in a few minutes. So the Gemara says the following: Amar Rabbi Helbo, Amar Rabuna, Kol hanehene misaudat Hatan beino mesamecho over b'hamisha kolot. The Gemara discusses a person goes to a wedding, correct? Now you go to a wedding. What do you do when you go to a wedding? Besides giving them a gift and eating a nice meal, Hazak Baruch, you're supposed to dance. You're supposed to mesameach. If for some reason you cannot dance, nevertheless, stand up when the music plays and clap and watch, etc. That's one way. Other way, you can tell the Hatan how wonderful the Kala is. The Gemara gives a few suggestions. Kala na'a bahasuda, a wonderful and a kind bride. So one opinion says, what if she's not beautiful? God forbid. There is no such a thing, right? But Hazve Shalom, Hazako Baruch. So the Gemara explains that the beauty that you're praising to the Hatan is about her midot tovot, her ma'asim tovim, her good deeds, her behavior, her kindness, her benevolence, and all the essence which truly makes a person. External beauty, how for many could be something important, but for our Torah, that's good too. But the main thing of the person is not the hisoniut, is not the external aspect of life, but the penimiut, the inner aspect of life. The Gemara says, a person transgresses 5 types of voices. Now, what does it mean, 5 types of voices? It's not talking about voices of Hazanim. It's referring to a pasuk. There is a pasuk that says in Yirmiyah Navi, Kol sason bekol simcha, Kol hatan bekol kala, Kol omerim hodu et Hashem tzevakot. 5 times Yirmiyah Navi talks about praising Hashem. The sound of the groom, the sound of the bride, the sound of joy, the sound of happiness, and the sound of expressing gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As the Gemara, Bein Mesamecho. Let's say, because sometimes a person maybe went to the wedding, ate a meal, and left. It's nothing wrong for you to eat a meal. I hope you bring a present to the Hatan and the Kala, hopefully. That's a beautiful thing to do as well. But what does it mean? You had a meal, you came, you ate, free lunch or free dinner, and khalas. You didn't do nothing for the Hatan and the Kala. You greet them, mazel tov, and ma'asalame, you left. That's what you did. Okay? So the Gemara seems to imply that besides all of the above, there is a concept of simcha bechabod. there is a concept of mesameach. So as the Gemara, Be'im mesamecho masecharo. What happens now? A person went to the wedding, a person fulfilled all the mitzvot. You were mesameach hatam bekala, you dance, you praise each other, etc. Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, zoche Torah, the zechut of going to a wedding and celebrating with the hatan and the kala, it brings the person the power to receive the Torah. But I must give you a disclaimer, because somebody may misunderstand the message of the Gemara. Obviously, and we're not asking questions at this time, I'm only telling you the facts. The proper type of wedding from a spiritual aspect of life, not only that the chuppah it's beautiful and you have hazanim and people sit separately, but when it comes to the dancing specifically, we need to make sure that the dancing is also separate. Because if the dancing is not separate, God forbid, the way they call it mixed dancing, that's a whole different shi'ur altogether. There is a debate in the halacha if in a mixed dancing you can say she'asimcha b'ma'ono. Simcha b'ma'ono means what? When we say the Birkat Hamazon, what do we say? Nevarech Elokeinu she'asimcha b'ma'ono she'achalnu mishelo. She'asimcha b'ma'ono, that the happiness is by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the meaning of b'ma'ono. So, Borei Olam, when does he feel the happiness? When there is a spirit of holiness and godliness in the celebration. But if God forbid, Haz v'Shalom, that means the dancing is mixing, and once you have mixed dancing, automatically you have an issue of family purity, and you have an issue of midah, and you have an issue of seniot. You have a lot of halachic headaches. That's why you see that sometimes good people, religious people, or rabbis come to the chuppah, they say Mazel Tov, and after the chuppah, they leave. Why they leave? Because they can't stay there. They cannot remain there. And if they remain, they do it because perhaps they're going to give hizuk to the hatan, or they negotiated that the first hour of the dancing with the mechitza, like sometimes it happens, and after the rabbi leaves, automatically the mechitza suddenly disappears. I don't know how does that happen, but it happens. I've seen it in real life. I said, what happened to the mechitza? True story, by the way. He said, no, it went up. I was in a wedding that they had a fascinating type of mechitza. What do? The mechitza came from the ceiling. They have like these rolled up curtains, so to speak, and they press the button, the mechitza came down. 2 hours into the wedding, suddenly they press the button and it's with a code, so you cannot play with it. And then the mechitza was lifted, suddenly it disappeared. Tahiyat HaMetim and others. So the Gemara writes, Zoche la Torah, on a more serious note, also the person becomes a worthy recipient of the Torah, which the Perashah writes in Perashat Yitro, which is the Perashah that we're going to read in a few weeks from this upcoming Shabbat, the topic of the giving of the Torah, Vayhi kolot uvrakim, bekol hashofar, holech behazek me'od, Moshe yidaber, ve'elokim ya'anenu, bekol. So we have two types of sounds. The sounds of Yirmiyah Navi and the sounds of the giving of the Torah. The Pasuk writes, additionally, Bechol ha'am ro'im et hakolot. Interesting enough, the Torah discusses a very fascinating concept. Usually, sound you don't see. Okay, I'm talking now, for example, right? What happens? You are listening. You don't see the transcript. And we're not talking about closed caption that you are able to read on the bottom of the screen, subtitles or whatever that is. And when it came to the moment of the Torah, even the sound was able to be seen by Am Israel. This refers to the sound of the shofar. When the Torah was given to Am Israel, one of the shofarot of the Akedat Ishak was utilized for Matan Torah. The second shofar is when Mashiach comes. Teka b'shofar gadol lecherutenu. So the Gemara goes further and it says, you know what else happens when you go to a wedding and you bring simcha to the hatan and kala? Ke'ilu hikriv toda. It's like you went to the Bet HaMikdash, offer a thanksgiving offering to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I'm not referring Thanksgiving weekend, November turkey and cranberry jelly, whatever. That's a different topic, right? That's it, Khalas, behind us 3 months ago. Now, The bottom line, can you imagine? You go to a wedding, okay, and now suddenly you're in the Bet HaMikdash. All this spiritually. Comes the Gemara and it says, one more. You know, there is a tradition, universal tradition. Whenever the Hatan and Kala get married, usually at the end of the chuppah, what they do, they break the glass. In Minhag Yerushalayim, in some congregations, what they do, they put sand, not sand, they put ashes on the forehead of the Hatan. And in some cases, they do it before the chuppah, not at the end of the chuppah. Our tradition in this part of the world is to do it at the end of the chuppah, Im Eshkachech Yerushalayim. But there is a new pattern going around in the world today. And I explain to it in a moment. Baruch, Ata Adonai Eloheinu, Melech HaOlam, She'akol Nihiyah V'Tbarok. Amen. It's nothing that is halachically obligated to do, but I find this very interesting. In many religious circles, after the Hatan breaks the glass, they don't sing Siman Tov, Mazal Tov, because what happens if you go to a wedding? The Hatan finishes Im Eshkachech Yerushalayim, he breaks the glass, and what they do? They start singing. Right. So why do you sing if you're just saying and remembering the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash? Istarte desatre. It's two things that contradict each other. So I've seen it, not often, but I've seen it in some weddings, even locally, that after the glass is broken by the Hatan, there is 30 seconds of silence to think about the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. And after that, the music starts playing. The question is, why in a wedding I need to do a reminder of the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash? First of all, to remind ourselves that even though you have a magnificent wedding, very elegant wedding, delicious catering, beautiful flowers, everything is gorgeous, but our happiness at an individual level cannot be complete as long as the Bet HaMikdash is destroyed. That's why the next sentence of the Gemara says, every time a couple gets married, Kedat Moshe be'Israel, in the proper manner, it's like we built one of the ruins of Yerushalayim that were destroyed during the time of the Bet HaMikdash. That's why you say, Im Eshkachech Yerushalayim. The Gemara writes, Ke'ilu bana yahad michorvot Yerushalayim. So the more people get married, Kedat Moshe be'Israel, we are in a way expediting to a certain extent Mashiach's arrival. Why? Because if we are building now one of the ruins of Yerushalayim, but that's not enough. You also have, it sounds like a commercial, okay, that's not enough. You're going to get one more benefit. What is the benefit? If you order in the next 21 minutes, you get free shipping and handling, right? That's what they do. 2 for 1 or 3 for 1 special. But you know what they also, it says that when a Hatan and Kala get married and they build a relationship, a marriage, a home based on the foundations of Torah, that becomes an additional stepping stone for the building of the Bet HaMikdash. Because now we are one more source of benefit for all of Am Israel. So we took care of the weddings. So conclusion, don't go to the wedding just to eat and have a good time. And a wedding cannot be taken as a date with your wife. Just for the record. Somebody wants to be hacham. Okay, let's go to the wedding, dress nice, and I took you for dinner. Mabisir. Date is date, wedding is wedding. I hope my wife is not listening at this moment. She'll listen to it later. Okay, otherwise sometimes my kid says, why did you speak about us in the class? You know, I don't speak about me, I just say a few things. That's all. Overall, I'm sure they got plenty of customers that fit on that criteria. Baruch Hashem. But bottom line, you go to the chuppah, you go to the wedding, be mesameach hatan bekala, wish them well, praise the hatan and praise the kala. We had a Sabbath yesterday. Part of the speech that we give is what? Praising the hatan and the kala, the good midot, the derecheres, the good things that they have, the families that they come from, how they can emulate if they put the potential that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives them to follow in the footsteps of the previous generations, which is something that we all aim to do. The Gemara now switches a bit the topic and talks about, to a certain extent, about rabbis and teachers. How many times you hear that you see in life that you develop a great affinity with a teacher, for example? And I'm not talking about Professor Hernandez, alav shalom. I gave him a hard time in elementary school, 4th grade math. I remember that as yesterday. All right? Anyways, let's say that you have a rabbi that you are connected with and you listen to him, whoever it may be. I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about the rabbinate throughout the world. Comes the Gemara and it says, why you see that sometimes that happens? Where does that come from? Amal Rabbi Halabo, Amal Abuna. Maybe Rabbi Halabo was from Halab. That's why his name was Halabo. You know, Halbo, Halabe, Halabi, Halabi, Halabo, the way they said in Panama, right? Halabo, that's the name of the rabbi of today's Gemara. Kol adam sheyesh bo yirat shamayim, devarav nishma'im. A person, not necessarily a rabbi, but a person that is a God-fearing individual, when he speaks to others, his words are being heard. Where do we learn this from? A famous pasuk that we recite every time we say the Birkat HaMazon. Before Birkat HaMazon, we have a lineup of pesukim. Avarecha et Hashem v'choleta metilato b'fi. The next pasuk comes from Kohelet that says, Sof davar hakol nishma. Et aleim kim yira b'mishmotav shemor ki ze kol ha'adam. There are many ways of explaining this pasuk. Let's translate it. Sof davar. Bottom line, it says, hakol nishma. Everything is heard, everything is understood. Et Elokim yira. Develop yirat shamayim in your life. Ben mitzvotav shemor. And then observe the commandments. Ki ze kol ha'adam. Because this is the person. In other words, Shlomo HaMelech says, you want to summarize your life in a single sentence? What level of connection you develop with Hashem throughout your life? Not how many buildings you have, or where did you go for Pesach vacation, or if you came to Florida for winter break. All that is beautiful, and don't stop doing that, Baruch Hashem. But bottom line, Shlomo HaMelech says, okay, what did you do with your life? Besides getting married and having kids, etc. The world population is only increasing. So everybody gets married and everybody has children. Although in the outside world, today they think, if to have a child, to have a dog, to have a cat, they don't understand. But okay, we're not talking about goyim, we're talking about us. Okay, people which are connected. So Shlomo HaMelech says, Ki ze kol ha'adam. This is the person. Torah, Mizvot, and Ma'asim Tovim. But on the other hand, the Gemara writes, Sof davar hakol nishma, et Elokim yira. If a person that's speaking has yirat shamayim, you hear the words of yirat shamayim as well. Ki ze kol ha'adam. It says, what's the meaning of this is the person? Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Lo kol ha'olam kullo lo nivra ella bishvil zeh. The entire purpose of the creation of the world is for yirat shamayim. Every time a person makes the right spiritual decision, the right spiritual behavior, the right spiritual improvement, it justifies the creation of the world, even for one person. So what does that mean? That the value of the individual is nothing to be ignored. Even one person, says the Gemara, makes that benefit. The Gemara writes, in different opinions, all of them saying the same thing. Develop your yirat shamayim. The way that a person develops a business, correct? A person starts from the bottom and gradually you grow be'ezat Hashem. The same thing, a person is born as a baby and the person grows and becomes a man, becomes a husband, a father, grandfather, etc. So all these physical changes and financial changes are part of life, but all of the four opinions of the Gemara, Rabuna, Rab Halabo, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Barkana, Rabbi Shimon ben Azai, they all bring different angles, but bottom line it says, Kizeh kol ha'adam. After 120, the way the Gemara teaches us in Masechet Shabbat, already the Gemara gives us the questions So our goal is to give the answer. It's like an open book test. Okay, if it's an open book test, it's easy. You find the question, you find the chapter, you read it properly, don't go too fast, just read it properly, and hopefully you'll get the right answer. So the Gemara has 4 questions, which we all know them, but just since we're talking about developing Yirat Shamayim, number 1 question is Emunah. Not only honesty in business, which is the literal meaning of the first question of the Gemara, but it's actually Nasata benatata ve'emunah. Did you develop your emunah, as we learned yesterday in Saudah Shirishit, the different levels of emunah based on the Lekachtov, explaining the different levels of the plagues. The first 3 plagues were connected to the ground. The second 3 in between the heaven and the earth. And the third group, which were the 4 final, all of them coming from Shamayim. So we started in the lobby, we went to the mezzanine, and we went to the penthouse at the end. So the Lekachtov explains that all these matters recreated the combination between the heaven and the earth, because you cannot take the heavenly spiritual life from the earth. And the spiritual life without the physical aspect, it can never become a reality. Allow me to explain. And these are very basic examples, which I think we can all relate. Let's say I bought a suit, okay? Beautiful. You buy a suit, you're going to a wedding, or your own wedding, or you have a Shabbat, Yom Tov, you buy a suit, okay? So I have a suit now. But what the Torah tells me, bring God to your suit. What does it mean? Sha'atnes. Before you do the tailoring, many people do the tailoring first, and then they do the sha'atnes, and then they find sha'atnes, and then what are you going to do with the suit? Kaddish. Okay? You can benefit, you cannot give to someone something that has sha'atnes. Okay? That's why a guy may be a bit different, but usually we don't give garments. We have plenty of Jewish needy families and things. That's why my suggestion is the way it's written in the holy books. First do the testing of sha'atnes. Then go to the tailor. You have to schlep twice to the tailor and to the store. Beseder, Macy's or whoever store tells you this one doesn't have sha'atnes, don't believe them. We have had cases here in stores not far away that the salesman says, yeah, it's a kosher suit. It's a kosher suit. Okay? So he tested for sha'atnes. That's one example. Beautiful. So you brought God to your suit. Now you have an apartment. Okay? You have a house. What the Torah tells you, no problem. Make sure, put a mezuzot. Make sure, separate meat and dairy. You want to go on vacation? Besimcha. Don't travel on Shabbat. Go to a place where your spiritual needs can be taken care of. And today, Baruch Hashem, is so easy. It's not like we're talking about 50 years ago that you barely found Chabad houses or Young Israel or Sephardic synagogues. Today you have all of the above all over, literally, and food, and it's available in the regular supermarkets. So what does it mean? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want us to divorce the physical from the spiritual. Our goal as Yehudim is to merge them. And when we merge both of them, then we are in the right track. Because guess what? I cannot fulfill the mitzvah of sha'atnes if I don't have a suit. Right? I cannot fulfill certain mitzvot if I don't have the material aspect that makes my mitzvot attainable. For example, the mitzvah of educating children. Okay? Now, in order for you to fulfill the mitzvah from the Torah, what do you have to get? You have to get married. And after you got married, you have to pray that HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless you with children. And after that, Chaim Tovim, you have to educate them. It's not automatic. If you think that school is going to educate your children without your intervention, you're making a mistake. The school supplements the home. And the home reinforces the learning of the school. But you cannot separate. You know what? I'm sending my kids to this school. I'm sending my kids to this yeshiva. Whatever school you send them, and they will do it for me. No, they will not do it for you. They can only reinforce what you teach them at home. And like this, we can bring many examples, but I don't think I have to go further because we are very clear to understand. One more topic the Gemara discusses today. Saying hello to people. Saying hello to people is imperative. It's not nice. It's not optional. It's an obligation. What does it mean? To acknowledge the person. Sometimes you see me, I'm giving the class live via iTorah.com, and suddenly I do this. Why I do this? Because somebody's saying hello to me in the door. You don't see it. Because you're looking at the camera, you're looking at the video. But I look around. Person waves the hand, what I'm going to do? Like this. You come into shul, people say hello, you answer back. So the Gemara writes and it says, Kol sheyodea habero, bahabero rather, shehu ragil liten lo shalom. Anyone that you know that is going to say hello to you. Now don't wait till the person says hello to you to say hello to him. The Gemara says, Yagdim lo shalom.
Be the first one.
Be the first one to say shalom. It's a pasuk from the book of Tehillim that says, Bakesh shalom berotfehu. Look for the peace and pursue the peace. Imagine yourself, you see me, and I don't say hello to you.
You're busy.
I know that I'm a busy man, and thank you for thinking so good of me. But not everybody is as holy as you are. Okay? Okay? That's why we protect your identity. Okay? And you don't say, I don't say hello. What people may think, look, the rabbi went next to me, and didn't say hello to me. It happened to me 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. Somebody was to engage in a conversation with me on a Shabbat night, while there is a whole lineup of people to say Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi, Shabbat Shalom, welcome back, Shabbat Shalom, ta-ta-ta. In other words, the conversation it needs to a minimum. Because you want to go home to make a deuce, you want to go home to make a deuce, all of us want to go home. I don't mind staying after a prayer that usually does happen. Somebody wants to speak to me. But to speak, when you see everybody is waiting to say Shabbat Shalom, to start engaging in a conversation, I don't think that is an appropriate time, especially you have maybe 100 people next to you, and they're going to listen what you're telling me. And maybe you want to tell me something that is personal and private. And actually, when I spoke to the fellow afterwards, it was personal and private. And he came to apologize 3 weeks later. Not that I need that apology. Thank God my self-esteem is good. Okay, I don't let it affect me. But I felt bad for the fellow. I felt really bad for the fellow. You know, but this is the way things happen. So I said a story the other day, which I'm not going to repeat, but I'm going to say the short version of the story. That when a person, I'm not going to say the story, I'm going to go straight to the point. When we come into our buildings, most of us here live in buildings, correct? Most of us. So you come in, you see the valet guy who brings you the car, you see the concierge behind the desk, you see the janitor cleaning the floor, etc. Saying good morning to them never killed anyone. And you acknowledge, but guess what? Some people, they just go in and out, heke, like the world owes them something. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you anything. Don't have a sense of entitlement. In Hebrew they say, Magi'ali. Right? I'm entitled to it. Why are you entitled to it? Obviously, from a Ben Adam interaction of humans, the way that the Gemara of today says, Yagdim lo shalom. I tell you the story that there is a fellow in my building, every time I come in, he stands up. He's a goy. It's not a Yehudi. He's a goy. So I ask him, why you stand up? I see that you don't stand up for everybody. He says, because any time of the day you leave or you come, you always acknowledge me. How much does that take us to acknowledge a person? Seconds? Good morning, have a good day. Like the story of the fellow, of the rabbi that was saved during the time of the Holocaust. On what merit was he saved? By him, 30 years earlier, when he was going to shul every morning from his home to the synagogue, he will not step on the wet floor of the maintenance worker that was mopping the entrance of the building. Okay? You're careful. You are conscientious. The guy sees that this fellow is mopping the floor. And Kaya, you're going to step on it? If you need to, go to the border and say, I'm sorry. And they will understand. And this Gentile became a general during the Holocaust, the time of the Holocaust. And this general saved the life of the elderly rabbi. 30 years later, he was 70-some years old. And they asked him when he was sent to the concentration camp, how much did you pay? Because they had two options back then. Remember? Left or right. He said, how much did you pay? He says, nothing. So how come this general saved your life? He says, because when he was younger, he used to clean the street next to the knis. And every day I will say to him, good morning, and then make sure not to step on the wet floor that he was cleaning or mopping. It's very common. I'm not sure if in America they do it, but I remember as a child in South America and Europe, which is the same flavor, there is in a building, there is a fellow who is in charge of the maintenance, different than the condominium lifestyle. Different system, but usually 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, the first thing this fellow does is sweep the entrance, the frontage, right, of the building and mop it. So when people start coming in and out, 6, 7 a.m., etc., the front of the building, it looks clean and presentable. Imagine if he's mopping the floor and you're stepping on it. But if you need to, go around. That's it. Now, Be'im natan lo shalom velo ehezir. Now what happened? He said hello to you, anyone. Okay, your friend. And you continue. You ignored. You didn't say nothing. Nikra gazlan. You are stealing.
Wow.
What you are stealing? The words. The honor of the person. Shene'emar is a pasuk from Yeshaya Navi. Be'atem bi'artem akerem gezlate ani bebatechem. You stole from the needy. What does that mean? If he's a needy person, he has nothing to steal. The Gemara says, yes, of course he has what to steal. His honor and his words. The honor of the person is there. And the words are there. You may not have food, but you have words. So therefore it says, Rashi, Gezelata ani shelo kelum ligzol, ela leashim al shelomo. Just acknowledging the person, good day, good morning, Shabbat Shalom, etc. I think that the Gemara of today is very, very, very powerful. And let's go quickly. What time is it now? We still have a few more minutes. Let's go to the Zohar of today. The Zohar of today discusses the relationship between humans and angels. Now, I did not hear the full halacha that Rabbi Moshe was giving inside, but I heard the last part. For example, I walked in and he was talking, right? What did I do?
Stayed in the back.
Hazako Baruch. You saw me?
Yes.
I stayed in the back, not to walk through. Because if I'm going to walk through, I'm going to disturb the minyan. People are going to say hello, Shavua Tov. People are going to stand up. And Hazit, the rabbi is talking. So I stayed behind the tebak, yani on the cover. When he finished, I walked to ask him a quick question. Okay? Now, this is called sensitivity. For example, sometimes I wait outside of the shul and I come in only when the kahal is saying Baruch She'amar, Hashem Melech, by Baruch David, etc. Don't think that I'm such a tzaddik, by the way. I have my Yetzer Hara, I have my Nisyonot. Him and I go back a long time. Okay? He never stops visiting me.
Hello.
I'd rather not speak to him. Okay? If I say hello, just saying hello, he captures you. This is the shtick of the Yetzer Hara. But when I tell you my personal situations, I can't talk about anyone else, but I can talk about myself. And this is something based on the Gemara that we learned today. So now, he was talking about the concept of Kedusha, correct? That's what he was talking about. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. I think he started to learn the halachot of the Amidah, how when a person does the Amidah, needs to put the feet together, based on the pasuk that says, Beraglehem regel yeshara, the legs of the malachim are united into one. That's why when we stand up to do the Amidah and Nagdishach, we keep our feet together, and then when it comes to the pasuk, Kadosh, 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 what do? We lift our heels Yani mimicking in a way the actions and the praises of the malachim.
8 levels.
3 levels, whatever that means in the pasuk of Yehezkel HaNavi. Obviously, in the world of malachim, there are many types of malachim. Yesterday in the class in the afternoon, we discussed how certain malachim have specific missions to fulfill. For example, Eliyahu Navi comes to the Berit Milah, correct? His journey, his trip from Shamayim to Berit Milah is a 4 stops journey. Malach Michael, 1 stop. Malach Raphael, 2 stops. And Samach Mem, the Yetzer Hara, to take away Neshama, 8 stops. Yani when we're driving crazy, we do a kafot to him in order for him perhaps to desist, or maybe to desist. That means, or to perhaps in between his journey, maybe there is a zechut made for this person, and the person may be granted a refuah shelema, or even a miracle to save the person's life. This is what the Gemara writes. Comes the Zohar of today, and it says that all of the above is accurate, obviously, but there is an additional relationship between humans and malachim. And is this referring to the Gemara, right? To the malachim created by the person. There are certain malachim which are created by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they have a mission. Malach Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, all these famous names of malachim. But then says Zohar Kadosh, there is another group of malachim, the malachim that you and I create, through mitzvot, through tefillot, through Torah learning, through tzedakah. The Mishnah writes in Pirkei Avot, ha'oseh mitzvah ahad. A person does a mitzvah, what happens now? I have one advocate on my behalf. But if God forbid the person does the opposite, what do we create? An accusing angel. That's why it's called Sanegor and Kategor. Sanegor means the one that defends you, and Kategor is the one that accuses you. Hence the word Kategor comes from the word Kitrug. What's the meaning of Kitrug? Heavily accusations against the person. Now, the Zohar Kadosh writes, and it says that there are those groups of malachim. The good team, let's call them the white malachim and the dark malachim. The white malachim, and God forbid, I'm not trying to say any words, God forbid, that simulate racism, Has Shalom, but it's the only easy way for me. I'm not going to use soccer teams or sports teams because they can create a little bit of a political situation. But I'm going to say the good malachim and the negative malachim. The white malachim represents the purity of the action of the person, and the dark malachim represents darkness. That's why you have kedusha and sitra hara. Kedusha means holiness, godliness, purity. And Sitra Hara means what? The dark side. Why they call it dark side? Because darkness prevents the light. So comes the Zohar Kadosh and it says, there is a group of malachim that are constantly praising those who learn Torah, do mitzvot, live a godly way of life like every one of us tries to do. And yet we also have certain malachim that they criticize us. Sure, you did this mitzvah, you learned Torah, you gave tzedakah, but they always find a hedge why to criticize the person. Somebody asked me yesterday about the topic of criticism. This question came at 6:05 in the morning. Okay? 6:10 in the morning. Yesterday in the minyan, before we began praying. And the person asked me about criticism. I said, criticizing someone is very dangerous. Although there is a mitzvah to rebuke someone, but not everyone can rebuke, and not everyone is willing to listen to rebuke, and you need to find the proper situation, the proper time that you're going to say a rebuke to someone. This includes marriage. This includes marriage. According to the holy books of Shalom Bayit, it says criticism in a marriage is like you're trying to add salt to the wound. You have a wound, God forbid, in the body. What do? You use coffee or sugar? to stop the bleeding.
Sugar.
Can you imagine if they put salt? The pain and suffering of the person. So I explained to him. It says, sure, the Torah says, "Ocheach tochiach et amitecha." Rebuke, you shall rebuke your fellow men. But you know how many messages are in this short pasuk? Why the Torah repeats twice, rebuke, you shall rebuke. First of all, rebuke yourself, then rebuke others. Because there is a holy writing in the Gemara that says, Kol posel bemumo posel. Kol posel pasul. What does it mean? It's a game of words. It says, if you are able to see a deficiency on someone, most likely you also have it. And if a person becomes a critic in a negative way, there is an issue with that person. Why? The Mishnah tells us in Pirkei Avot that a person needs to be Ayin Tova. What does it mean? Look always from the bright side. Instead of half empty, half full. Now you may say, but Rabbi, based on this, I can't say nothing at home, I can't say nothing to my kids. Of course you need to say, because that's part of education. But when you do it out of love, you do it out of respect, and don't concentrate on the drama. Let's say a child did something, or a teenager did something, don't start rubbing it, you can explain, you know what? Be careful from now on, do the positive action. I'm not saying that it's easy and it's automatic, okay? But in a way, it says the Zohar Kadosh that the Malachim also act in this way. That sometimes they look how to criticize the person. And the Zohar Kadosh says, if every type of criticism, a critic to a person, it will become activated, the person will not be able to live a normal way of life. Can you imagine if a parent criticizes their children constantly? Let's start with the children. Not good. What if you criticize your spouse? And I use the word spouse because sometimes the husband criticizes, sometimes the wife criticizes. So if somebody may say, so Rabbi, you can never say anything to your wife. According to the holy books, only say good things. And if God forbid, there is a situation, you better filter your words, you better say it at the proper time, say it out of love, say it out of respect, and if you don't have to say it, stay quiet. The Gemara writes the following. The same way that there is a mitzvah to say something positive that will be heard by someone, there is also a mitzvah not to say something that will not be heard. You see the extremes? I have something good to say. Let's say, you tell your wife, Haim Tovim, what a beautiful Shabbat meal you made, what a beautiful setup of the table. Which wife doesn't like to hear compliments from the husband? I think that every single wife would like to hear that. And the more compliments we give, the better life is. The better her emotions become. Sometimes there are people who need a lot of materialistic matters in order to feel happy. According to the holy books, the reason why that sometimes becomes a reality in a person's life, because there is a void on the emotional aspect of life. If the emotions are there and the person has a loving, proper, respectful type of relationship, ladies are more sensitive than men. This is the reality, and I apologize to the wonderful female audience of iTorah.com if they feel that I'm saying something out of line. But these are not my words, these are the words of the Torah. The Gemara writes concerning husband talking to the wife, in the same Gemara that talks about heading people verbally, Baba Messiah, the Gemara writes, it says, be careful the way you talk to your wife. Why? Because ladies are very sensitive, and that sensitivity can bring emotional reaction like tears. That's what the Gemara writes. So guess what? When the tears start flowing from the wife's eyes because of the husband's statement or actions, that's very problematic. That's very problematic. So what you should do then? Compliment. Compliment. You have to say something, as I said before, pick the right time, pick the right moment, do it privately, do it out of love. In the world of education, how much education changed 30, 40, 50 years ago and today? Probably you went to the same kitab that I went, that the teacher had a stick. Remember those days? Okay? Or your parents used the shahada, right? That's what they did. Okay? I don't know how to say it in another language, but I think we call it shahada. Okay? Shahada, shahida. Slipper, I know.
Ship.
Ship, whatever. Each country has the same. I see we all went to the same school and the same household. But today, what they tell you? Positive reinforcement. When we were children, if the teacher or the Rebbe or the rabbi called our parents or sent a note, please call me, we need to speak about your son Yosef, I knew that it was action tonight at home. Your rabbi called me. Your teacher called me. And you know the rest of the story. Those days, I used to go to sleep early. Relax. You try to do this today, what happens? You jail time. Police, Chas v'Shalom, they leave the home. So what they tell you today in the world of education, positive reinforcement. Now it's a catch-22. Imagine your son comes from school or your daughter comes from school with a report card and you see that she got an F or he got an F. Are you going to say, fantastic? No. But today what they tell you know what? Next time you'll do better. And again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist, although I do all of the above, in between days and hours and classes, etc. But the bottom line, the Zohar Kadosh says, always trying to earn brownie points in your life. Gravitate to do more mitzvot, more ma'asim tovim. That we occasionally have hiccups, we all have them. It's actually a pasuk that we say in the morning prayers in Batipalel Hana. At the end of Batipalel Hana, what do we say? Ki nafalti kamti. Even I've fallen down, I get up. Someone went to the great, excuse me, Rabbi Kanievsky, concerning a spiritual challenge that a person was experiencing on a recurring basis. Okay, you know what the great rabbi said? After darkness comes sunrise. What does it mean? Even though today in your spiritual life may have been a dark day, but don't linger in the misery of the mistakes done yesterday. Obviously, regretting and redoing and doing teshuvah is beneficial. Obviously, it helps. That's part of who we are as a nation. But don't linger on the drama. Tomorrow morning, try to aim to have a better day than yesterday. And tomorrow will be better than today. And the day after tomorrow will be better than the day before. And if every day the person looks forward, I finish with the following statement that I heard in one shi'ur. Sometimes we get so many shi'urim in WhatsApp, short minutes shi'urim, etc. And what they say, life is like a car. What does it mean, life is like a vehicle? In the car, you have two types of glasses. You have the rear view mirror and the windshield. Make sure your life is the windshield. The rear view is the life of the past. So what size is the rear view mirror? Very small. But the front glass, the windshield, it's mega, monster. Somebody gave me a ride the other day in a Tesla.
Yeah, it's wide.
You saw that's like a helicopter type of a... I'm not getting a Tesla, relax. Okay? No. I'm pashut. I get the middle of the road the way the rabbi needs to do. Okay? Don't worry about it. No, I'm not looking for anything, Baruch Hashem. But anyways, when I heard that, I said, wow, the rear view mirror is about the past. Okay, we had hiccups in the past, we made mistakes in the past, try not repeat them again. But all your life is ahead of us. Every day is ahead of us. If we look forward like the front windshield, our life will be brighter, our life will be happier, and ultimately our life will have a meaningful purpose. So once again, we say Tizkela Mizvot to the Ginsburg family from Toronto for graciously sponsoring today's class. La'ayun Nishmat, the beloved father, Elhanan Victor Ben Naftali Hertz, Hashem Inkom Damo. Shavua Tov u'mevorach to everybody. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Hananiah ben Akashia.